Hello everyone, my name is Melrose Johnson. Today I'll be teaching about polynomial functions of higher degree. A polynomial function of higher degree is any function that includes powers of x that are 3 or higher. The degree tells us the shape and how the graph behaves at the ends. I will be providing 2 examples today to show and demonstrate that. My first example would be cubic function y equal x cubed. My second example would be y equal x to the 4th power. The general form is f of x equals a sub nx to the n plus a sub n minus 1x to the n minus 1, and so on, all the way down to a sub 1x plus a sub 0. So I'm going to get started on the first example today, which will be y equal x cubed. I am going to first set up a small table with x and y values. So I am going to use, for x, I'm going to use -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2. Now for my y values, I am going to use -8, -1, 0, 1, and 8. So that's my table of my x and y values that I'm going to use to plot on the graph. So now I am going to get started and make the graph to plot those points. Okay, so let's see. So we're gonna do 10.0, 7.5, 5.0, 2.5, and then 0. And then we're going to do -2.5, -5.0, -7.5, and -10. So as you can see here, I am currently making the graph. As soon as I'm done grafting, I will then show you as I graph each point. Okay, now we're going to do now we're gonna do 0, -1, -2, and -3, and then we're going to do 1, 2, okay, so this is my graph so far. So far I have created my graph and I have labeled the graph. Now I'm going to go ahead and plot these points. So first we're going to plot 0, 0. And then we are going to plot, let me make a line. Okay, so first we're going to plot 0, 0. So that right there would be 0 and then 0. Okay, and then The next point that we're going to plot is -2, and we're going to plot -2, -8, which will be about here. So this point right here will be -2 on the x-axis, and then -8 on the y-axis. And so we're going to go ahead and plot that point. Then the next point that we're going to plot is -1, -1. So that's going to be -1 here, -1 here. So the next point that we're going to go ahead and plot is right here, which will be -1 on the x-axis, and then -1 on the y-axis. And then we're going to plot 1, 1, which will be 1 here, and then here. And then for the point 1, 1, it's going to be 1 here, and then 1 here. And then our last point that we're going to plot is 2, 8, which will be all the way up here. So it'll be here. And then our last point that we're going to go ahead and plot will be 2 on the x-axis, and then 8 on the y-axis. So now I am going to go ahead and connect the points, and then I'm going to show you. So we're gonna start here. Okay, so as you can see here, this is the shape that I got after I plot the points from my X and Y table. So with that being said, it looks like from the plotted points, the points formed an S-shaped curve. And because the degree is odd, the ends go in opposite directions. So this is a perfect example of a cubic function, y equal x cubed. I'm going to go ahead and write that at the top here. And then this would be example 1. So now I'm going to go ahead and move forward to example number 2, which is y equal x to the 4th power, to show you that. So I'm going to start here. First, I am going to, as before, I'm going to create a table with x and y values, and then I'll go ahead and draw the graph so I can then plot the points. Okay. So now for this we are going to do, let's see, so we're gonna do, let me put it here so I can see better. So we're gonna do 20, 20.0, 17.5, 15.0, 12.5, and 10.0, and then we're gonna do 7.5, 5.0, and then we can do 2.5 and 0.0, and then we're gonna, so those will be our y table, and then this will be x. So So as you can see here, I'm now starting example number 2. I'm starting the graph. I'm labeling the graph as of right now. I'm currently doing the x values, so we're going to do -3, and then we're going to do -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, 3, and then I'm going to draw the lines on the graph. So this time I actually started doing the graph first. So I did the graph, I labeled the y-axis, I labeled the x-axis. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make my table values. So what we can do is, so for example number 2, our x values that we're going to use is going to be -2, -1, 0, 1, 2. And then our y values would be 16, 1, 0, 1, and 16. Now we are going to go ahead and graph this. So first, let me show you. So this is the graph with the x and y axis, and then this is my table with my x values that I'm going to use, and then this is my y values that I'm going to use to plot. So now I'm going to go ahead and plot the points. So we're going to do a -2, 16. So -2 would be here, and then 16 would be here. So we're going to go ahead and graph it. So -2 is here on the x-axis, and then 16 is here on the y-axis. So that'll be our first coordinate point. Then our next coordinate point would be -1, 1. So that'll be -1 here. And then the point will actually be here. So this would be -1 here, and then 1 here. That's our next point. Now our next point will be 0, 0, which will be down here. So our next coordinate point would be 0, 0. So 0 on the x-axis, 0 on the y-axis. And then our next point will be 1, 1, which will be here. So our next coordinate point will be 1, 1. So 1 is here on the x-axis, and then 1 is here on the y-axis. And then our last coordinate point that we will be doing would be 2, 16. So 2 here on the x-axis, and then we're going to look for 16 on the y-axis, which will be right here. So our last point that we graph would be 2 on the x-axis, and then 16 on the y-axis, which will be right about here in the middle. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we are going to connect the points. So what we're going to do is connect. So we're going to start from here. Okay, so we're going to start there, and then we're going to connect the dots. So for example number 2, which I'm also going to write here, is y equal x to the 4th power. So this is an example of, this is our example 2, where it shows x to the 4th power. So as you can tell, after plotting the points, the graph actually forms a U-shaped. So with that being said, it's flatter near the origins, and because the degree is now even, both the ends go up. So you see how it opens into the U shape and then the ends go up. So that would be an example of y equal x to the 4th power. So with that being said, I am now going to sum everything up. So to wrap everything up, a polynomial function of higher degree can look very different depending on whether the degree is either odd or even. Odd degree graphs like y equal x cubed go in opposite directions, as in example number 1, where you see the points go there and then the points go here. The higher the degree, the more turns or curves the graph can have. And then also for example number 2, where it's y equal x to the 4th, the ends, they go basically, if you take a look at it, the ends go up. Thank you for watching my mini lesson on polynomial functions of higher degree. Thank you. Bye.